Hey there guys, how are you? Welcome back to another awesome video, and it's time for another top 10 video. And to close out the old year of 2019 and bring it into the new year, let's talk about the top 10 best movies of 2019. So I'm gonna clarify real quick that I didn't get a chance to see all the movies that came out this year. I didn't get a chance to review all the movies that came out this year, but these are the ones that I saw. These are the ones that in my opinion, they were my favorite. These are ones I thought were personally fun, entertaining, groundbreaking, anything that maybe brought something different, something new, something original, something that I enjoyed, whether I made me laugh, it made me cry, it did anything for me, it's going to be here on this list. So, um, like I said, I didn't get a chance to review all these, but there are some I was able to review beforehand. But most likely, there's going to be movies that I didn't get a chance to review. So these aren't going to be reviews of these movies, just my thoughts and kind of like little things I thought about the movie, and then maybe somewhere down the line I'll review them. We'll see. But let's jump into this and let's kick off number 10. Number 10 is Shazam. So Shazam for me was really fun. I really liked it. It was something different for the DCEU, the extended universe. It brought something fun. It brought something funny. It was lighthearted. Zachary Levi's Shazam really kind of hit it for me. It was Big. It's like the movie Big, if it was a superhero film, like that, that movie Big, Tom Hanks. It's like that if Tom Hanks was a superhero, and that's what basically Shazam is. It has surprisingly some good heart, but it was a good fun feel, surprisingly festive film. Number 9 is Us. So Us was done successful, and because of Jordan Peele, since Jordan Peele really broke the gate with Get Out, and now we got this movie with Us. How this is a very different sort of from Get Out, because I'm bringing this up because obviously Get Out was a more along the lines of not trusting strangers. Us talks about not trusting yourself, and sort of like maybe going into sort of the idea of like your inner demons and maybe your inner monster, and that the nicest people could be the most psychotic, if that makes any sense. And it's very ambiguous at times and very mysterious, and it kind of pulled sort of an interesting reveal, but I don't want to say what happens, but something along that line. You got Lupita Nyong'o and Winston Duke giving great performances, balancing a good slasher, like intense horror suspense, meets with like some comedy that Jordan Peele collaboratively provides. Number 8 is Rocket Man, another biopic on a very big person in music industry, and one I did not expect to sort of see. And I think that's what maybe took me by surprise, and how very musical like inspired it is. Taron Egerton really shocked me because I never would have seen him do musicals whatsoever. I'm used to him in stuff like Kingsman and more darker material, but to see him pull off something like this really kind of blows me away. It shows you how much range this guy can do, and it really was definitely something cool. And sort of seeing like maybe not really a different life, but the life of what Elton John went through, and kind of how you'd be surprised he's still a big man now, big names that people know. Number 7, am I reading that right? The Peanut Butter Falcon. It's a weird title, but I think this really tugged on a lot of heartstrings because of it's kind of its subject matter, and that the fact that you have this, to me, this feels like a first in film, bringing a Down syndrome sort of person as like, whether it's a character or as like starring as himself in this movie, was really interesting to have, and it's something a little bit different. And this sort of, I like how this movie doesn't really like beat you in the head that, hey, this guy is crippled or this guy is disabled, when because the disease this guy has, or not disease, this sort of mental issue he has, let's not call it a disease, it's a mental issue he has, doesn't mean he's disabled or he's crippled or he's weak or anything like that. Just because he's got this disabled like sort of like thing in his head doesn't mean he can't walk or he can't talk or he can't basically communicate like how we do, or how you say like uh be as opinionist or affectionate as us. He's no different than a regular human being. And that really was surprising to me. Shia LaBeouf is fantastic as well. I didn't expect this from a movie. I didn't expect this sort of performance from him. And especially since he's kind of been like in like MIA or in like hiatus. So that really surprised me. And just those two kind of really brought it together for the movie. Number 6 is Knives Out. Really a really good comeback for Rian Johnson after The Last Jedi, because whether you like the movie or not, Rian Johnson definitely got a big backlash from it. So to have him recover with this movie is fantastic, bringing back the elements of old mysteries and sort of suspenseful films like Clue, and to have a great ensemble of cast: Chris Evans, Daniel Craig, Jamie Lee Curtis, Michael Shannon, the list goes on. It's fun, but it's also very suspenseful, and definitely going to be one of probably the best movies of the year in terms of like Academy Awards maybe. But this is definitely going to be a film that people are going to remember. It might be one of Rian Johnson's better films, next to Brick and next to Looper. All right, we're nearing down to the final 5 on my list. And number 5 is Spider-Man: Far From Home. Another great superhero film that came out this year. Sure, we're at the age where is there superhero fatigue? I don't want to say that, because we're getting to a point where we're seeing things that we've never really seen brought to sort of superhero films, especially two big films in particular that we wouldn't have gotten if it weren't for these films. But back to Far From Home. Far From Home really just told a good tale, a great sequel for Spider-Man Homecoming. Tom Holland really gives it the heart and its humor, and obviously just the aftermath of what has happened really gives you that emotional feel. Mysterio, fantastic MCU villain with Jake Gyllenhaal, all coming together as a perfect spectacle. Not just a perfect spectacle, but a great personal story for Spider-Man trying to become someone that obviously he wants to be Spider-Man, be your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, but now there's obviously things are becoming more stressful for him and kind of being more than just your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. He's got to now have big, higher expectations. And where does he go with that as a character? And what are his responsibilities now? How he's going to handle these? Really strong hits and really great written dialogue and acting from such a great movie. Number 4, A Marriage Story. I didn't expect this movie to be as, not captivating, but I didn't expect it to be as good as I thought it would be. I heard good things about it, but when I actually sat and watched this, how captivating it actually is. The fact that these two basically divorced parents trying to make it work for their son, and that there's no real good guy or no real bad guy. They both have their personal like points of views, and you can get by those points of views. You can get by Adam Driver's point of view. You can get by Scarlett Johansson's point of view and still be like, okay, you see where they're coming from. And that their relationship, at first they're like, yeah, everything was fine. But then this happened. And then they had these hurdles. And you kind of see that, yeah, it affects both of you. And like I said, there's no real fault at anyone here whatsoever. There's no real like victim, or there's no real persecutor, I guess. There's no particular, like, Scarlett Johansson is not the victim, and Adam Driver is like the main like hate, like the one parent that you're like, oh, you hate him because he's being bad. No, they both have their perspectives, and they work to try and manage this as a family, and trying to keep, not as a family, but as a separate family, to work this out. And it just, that emotion really tugs on you, and it really brings it home for you. I know I've been saying heartstrings and tug strings and everything, but it really does. And I almost found myself crying, actually. I'm not going to lie. Number 3, Velvet Buzzsaw. So this is another one I just still can't wrap my mind around because of how not only artistic it is, but how just obscure and absurd this kind of is of what is going on. And I don't want to really dive too much into what really happens, but even if you know what happens, it's hard to kind of put together what and why, because people get hurt and you're kind of like, okay, why did these people get hurt? And what does this have to do with the sort of like art and everything? It's just so mind-boggling in a good, suspenseful way, and it's just so artistically entertaining. It's really like it really gets you on your the edge of your seat a little bit. I think this is really deserved to be have a theatrical release. It deserves more attention than it should, and I think that's probably one of the reasons why I kind of put it on my list. But I just really can't get that out of my head. It's so weird. It's good. You question it because of how good it is, and almost masterful in a way. So, for to get to my the next two I have here, this was really hard. So, I had a hard time picking between which one did I like the most, which one did I like better, and it was really a big toss-up because it's hard to really put it, but one just really brings it all together, and the other really took me by surprise, and it did a lot better than I expected. So, with that being said, at number 2 is Avengers Endgame, the big final sort of conclusion to the saga of the Avengers, the saga of the Infinity War, and everything else. How gives you all the sort of tributes, the sort of fan service, the visuals, bringing all these characters together for that epic showdown is just breathtaking. And just seeing that on a big screen, seeing something like this would never had been an idea back in 2010 or 2012 or even 2008 when they made the first Iron Man. No one would have ever thought of the idea back in 2008. The fact that we're gonna have the Guardians of the Galaxy, we're gonna have Spider-Man, we're gonna have the Avengers, we're gonna have Thor, we're gonna have all these characters, Black Panther, Doctor Strange, everybody fight alongside, big, wide, long shot, and getting ready for this big, epic battle. No one would ever thought of that. And the fact that the MCU has come basically since a decade since Iron Man, it's so surprising because you would have thought that, okay, Iron Man would have been just a fine Marvel movie, but they built it up, and it just kind of, sure, it went through hurdles and some bad flicks, but for the most part, this is probably the best cinematic universe that we've had, especially when you compare it to DCEU. But enough about them, and enough about that over there. Yeah, that. I'm not proud of the film, but I love that poster. I will be honest about that. So, yeah. Anyways, so to have that all, just everybody come together for the final thing of this phase in the 3-phase saga, 4-phase saga, and to have obviously your tributes and to have your emotional moments and to have those fan service and to have everything just be this big closing of the book. So before I unveil my number 1 pick, let me get into a few honorable mentions. Just give me one quick second. If I can find it. Okay. So I'm going from bottom to top. Jojo Rabbit. So Jojo Rabbit, I didn't think would be as good as people would think, and I don't know. Maybe it's because of Taika Waititi and Scarlett Johansson, and I think Mel Brooks is even tied to this, which surprised me because to see Mel Brooks back at it with basically your classical parody spoof movies, almost this could be almost parody material and spoof wise, this could be almost as close to something like Spaceballs or even the Monty Python stuff or even Men in Tights, the Robin Hood parody. So the fact that I have something like this be like this sort of parody satire is really surprising. And sure, it may be controversial, but it really was funny, surprisingly enough. Just Mercy. Just Mercy. I think it's Mike. It was really the stars, Mike Jordan and Jamie Foxx, really make this movie, and the sort of trial behind it, and how like almost aggressive you feel, but that's because of you feel in that like that court, you feel like you're in that room during this whole situation, during this trial, and it's definitely really brings the dramatic performances and the dramatic writing. Let's see. Okay, I'm looking at that right. Lego Movie, the second part. I wasn't at first very like fond of this movie for some aspects, but then after actually watching this again, or at least watching it once, or maybe one more time or two more times, I found myself laughing a lot more. I found myself almost like in the moment of like tears for a second, and the fact that this almost is as good as the first Lego movie, and the fact that like a thing like Legos can make you laugh and make you cry is still surprising to me, and I think that's because of Lord and Miller. A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood. What a real like this is a real tearjerker because of obviously Fred Rogers and just how beautiful the performance Tom Hanks gives as Fred Rogers and how he feels like the character, and he really brings it. And this is definitely should be Oscar worthy performance along with other performances, but this one should be up there in terms of what is it, best actor, hopefully. But then again, Tom Hanks is the like best actor and probably like American like favorite actor in the world, in the universe. Crap. Okay, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. There's really a lot of diversity on if this is a good movie or not, but to have Quentin Tarantino back in sort of like in the cinema, and this is sort of like his love piece. He loved like his basically his love letter to cinema and Hollywood and everything about it, because he loves the 60s and the 70s of cinema, and all the callbacks he does. You got Brad Pitt, Leonardo DiCaprio, Margot Robbie, great performances, the nice style, very classic Tarantino style movie. The Irishman, again, another old director coming back into his roots and coming back as a success once more. Martin Scorsese brings back the sort of gangster movies that he once was known for, with Goodfellas, with Casino, with those types of films, bringing that sort of style back, even bringing sort of ideals and things like of Taxi Driver. Taxi Driver, and even Wolf of Wall Street, or was Scorsese do King of Comedy? He did King of Comedy, yes, just make sure. To have all of his OG sort of stars like Joe Pesci, Al Pacino, Robert De Niro, all those dudes works pretty well in the era and in the year of when this whole, I guess, based on our true story sort of thing kind of happened. Really interesting. Toy Story 4. I unfortunately didn't get this opportunity to see this movie yet, but I heard so many people like cried about it, and I'm really hoping it's not what I think it is, but most likely this was a movie, whether I've seen it or not, I did not expect to get as much like praise, because the third movie was a good closing. And you thought, okay, that's it. Where do we go now? Why do another fourth one? And then you have this sort of movie, this fourth installment, and it kind of blows you away. And Pixar, really, with this animation, is gorgeous, really gorgeous. And to have this new guy, I don't even know the guy's name, but he being his first movie is really mind-blowing in the fact that everyone, even though it's not done by John Lasseter or any famous director that's already done the previous Toy Story movies, and it's a new dude, and this is his first film, still, like I said, surprises me. And how much emotion this kind of one brought. While, I guess, sort of keeping elements of what made the first three Toy Story movies so well, but not catching lightning in a bottle. So my number one pick of my top 10 best movies of 2019 is, small little drum roll here, my boy, the man, Joker. Oh well. But Joker really, I didn't expect to be as good as it was. Sure, I may have given it a lot more credit than it did, like it got before the movie came out, because the trailers looked good. How much Todd Phillips and Joaquin Phoenix kept talking about it in interviews, and how much it's basically like this art house sort of film. It's like an art piece sort of thing. Definitely a different sort of movie in terms of like the DC movies, or even just movies in general. But also at the same time, like I've said, borrowing things like Taxi Driver, King of Comedy, American Psycho, borrowing sort of aspects of these films, these psychological looks into the mind and sort of this guy's life, and how the fact that they took this story as the idea of this was one bad day, and they made it into a whole bad life. Like one bad day affected his entire life, and he snapped. And I think it's just Joaquin Phoenix. Joaquin just really brought it so good that he, along with a bunch of other actors I could probably say on this list, deserve nominations. If not, Joaquin deserves an Oscar for this. Sure, that'd be a little bit weird because they tried giving an Oscar nomination to an actor that already played Joker before. And I'm not talking about Jared Leto, because that was dumb, that whole Suicide Squad Oscar nomination thing. I didn't understand that. But I'm talking about Heath Ledger was supposed to get nominated for his performance. I think Joaquin should get this opportunity here. Especially, I think Joaquin was kind of good friends with Heath Ledger a little bit. But those are my movies of this year. And let me know in the comments, what are your favorite movies of 2019? And as always, guys, thanks for watching. If you like this video, please smash that button. If you're new to my channel, please subscribe. I do awesome videos every day, every week. Make sure you ring that bell to be notified of new videos, new content every day, every week. Make sure to look out for, since we've already covered the best stuff, we got to, unfortunately, empty the dumpster. So look out for the worst movies of this year. And then later on this week, maybe next week, look out for my most anticipated movies of 2020. Kicking off the new year pretty well. Real quick, on a side note, I was going to do a slight vlog this morning, but because I was at like the after like Christmas sales of Walmart, but I had very little space to kind of make it look like I was shooting something without people looking at me, staring at me like, what is this kid doing? And I'm not like losing my mind or I'm nuts in the head. So that blew that shot, but nothing really there. It kind of sucked a little. I was like, but I guess we'll have to look later. We'll see what happens. But look out for that stuff. Look out for more things coming back to this channel. Look out for new things coming to this channel. I'm gonna do in terms of new stuff, comic reviews. I'm gonna do more vlogs. I'll do TV show reviews. I might even do collabs. Might even start collabs with people and stuff like that. We shall see. I might know a guy that maybe I could collab with. I'll have to get a hold of him once, maybe sometime soon. Maybe two people. We'll see. But hope you guys enjoyed 2019, and I'll see you in next year.